Hey everyone, this is Lucas Acosta, and welcome to episode number 12 of the Foojee Show. Can't tell you how pumped I am about today. One, I'm in Nashville this week, so yay Jimmy. Jimmy's back there manning the camera gear today. But probably even more importantly, I get to hang out with Craig McClellan today. Super treat. Craig, tell us what you do and why on earth you would be talking with us today.
I don't know why I'm talking to you. I don't know why you want to hear from me. I am a second grade teacher here at a public school in Nashville, and I've been an Apple nerd for a long time. My first Mac was an eMac back in the early 2000s. Yeah. So look that up if you're not familiar. Yeah. So I love using Apple stuff, and I in the last year have transitioned. I'm no longer a Mac user, which is crazy.
Strange.
Yeah, I know. To go from the eMac to that, and I run everything off iOS now. So I'm going to talk about how I use iPads and my iPhone and things here in the classroom. So.
Awesome. So you know, we are huge fans of the Mac, huge fans of the iPad, and every so often we get to meet really interesting people that have just completely ditched a traditional computer. So our spidey senses went off, and Daniel introduced me to Craig to say we have to have him on the show just to hear about how he's using his iPad, not just for work, because a lot of the tools he's using really can be used by any of us, but also for school, daily in a classroom setting. So just to get a little bit of context, okay, so second grade, how many students are in your classroom?
20.
20?
So 27-year-olds, all day, every day.
7-year-olds,
Yeah.
Wonderful. And private or public school?
We're public school.
Okay. And so given that, is there an iPad program here at all, or a Mac program for the students?
There's not.
Okay.
We have about 3 iPads per classroom that the school, the PTO, have purchased for us, and we do have those to use with students, but there's not a program. We're not one-to-one, and it's we're in the process of figuring out how to manage those better. It's a long road to change a public school like that.
Yeah, totally. And so for the purpose of this conversation, you are using the iPads for your own work.
Yes.
You're also kind of relying on your own ingenuity to you have a few iPads that you do use for the classroom on occasion.
Right.
But we'll definitely dig into the tools that you're using. So before we dig in, I think we have the...
Welcome to a classroom where there's just noise always. I've got some stopwatches that have become alarms, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were saying you just don't know when they go off. Just throughout the day.
Students use them as stopwatches and then push buttons, and they magically become alarms, and I don't know how to change them.
So, Jimmy, thank you for being here to man the little pile of stopwatches over there.
You just wear it around your neck the rest of the time, Jimmy?
Great.
Yeah.
So tell me about your setup. You've got... Well, tell me about your setup.
Yeah, so I went all in on iOS when I decided to do it. And so I got the 12.9-inch iPad Pro here. I got that on the day it released. I was super excited about it. And then over the summer, I picked up a lovely gold 9.7-inch iPad Pro. And so I'm using both of them. I'd say that the 12.9-inch kind of takes the place of what my Mac used to be. Cool. And so it's my main. I pretty much always have the Smart Keyboard, Magic Keyboard.
Yep.
I never remember. I think it's Smart. Yeah.
I think it's Smart, but
I never remember the branding on those keyboards.
Yeah.
So I keep that on at all times and pretty much always use it in the landscape mode with the keyboard.
Right. Okay.
And it's where I get a lot of my emailing done, lesson planning, things like that.
Okay. And
then the 9.7-inch takes the place of what an iPad has always been for me. So I've had several different iPads throughout the years. I'm an upgrader. It's a problem. And so from using it on the couch to be able to check my email if I'm at home, or when I'm up moving around the classroom, being able to have it to monitor students or show them things on the iPad, it's way more mobile than even the 12.9-inch is.
Got it. So you've got both of these. You've got an iPhone
6S Plus. Yeah, and so I use that a lot too. And we'll talk about some apps that I use. There's one in particular that gets a lot of work done for me on the phone. So
awesome.
Dell computer behind you?
I do.
Yeah. What about that Dell, Craig?
Yeah. So that is a 10-year-old Dell that is essentially a printer machine for me. With our crazy network printers that we have here at the school, I can't connect an iPad to a printer, and so I'll either save something to my OneDrive,
Sure.
which we can talk about later,
Yep.
or I'll email it to myself when I need to print things. But that's literally all I do.
Yeah,
on the
I totally get it. Cool that you have a workaround for that.
Yeah.
Little note to any of you who are having, want to be able to print from your iPhone or iPad, but maybe you don't have a printer that's AirPrint compatible, or you work in kind of a complex environment. Neat app Printopia is just my favorite app. There's a few out there, but I just really like Printopia. I think it works for PCs as well, but also Mac. And what it does is it allows you to AirPrint to any printer that's plugged into your computer. So anyone just wants to convert, their current printer without having to go out and buy one. Printopia, it's got a free trial, but I think it's like $20 or something.
Yeah,
So
that's
super
awesome.
worth it. So you haven't always been all iPad. You were Mac for a while, and then relatively recently, moved to the iPad. What perspective shifted? Like, what was it about the iPad that was like, you know what? I think I can go all in. So what was it, and why did you make that switch? No one forced you to stop using a Mac.
Yeah.
You know?
I had a MacBook Pro up until just this spring and loved it. It was a great machine. About the same one you've got sitting here.
Sure.
So I've always, since I got my first iPad, just there's something about it feels magic to me still. Like every time I'm using one, just the touch screen, I feel like I'm in a sci-fi movie or something. So there's some of that is. It's just a personal love of it inside of me. But the things that really happened to help me go all in on iPad, first of all, were iOS 9.
Okay.
So when we got split screen multitasking, that was huge. And then also things just like the API that Apple opened up to where developers, you can search through apps in Spotlight.
Yes.
And so even because the file system is a little more difficult to manage on iOS than it is a Mac, you don't have a Finder. That is one of the drawbacks. But because that API opened up and I could find anything regardless of if I remembered where I put it or not, or what app I used to create it or whatever, that was a big deal for me. So iOS 9 was really big. And then honestly, I'm not a Microsoft fanboy, obviously. I've been using Apple stuff, but we use, in my school district, we use Office 365 for everything in Microsoft Office, and there's that timer again. Way to go, Jimmy. So I always lose my train of thought. That's
so with Microsoft.
Microsoft, thank you. And so when Microsoft products got really good on iOS when they finally when Steve Ballmer left, and that's his name, right?
I think so.
Yeah,
around that time.
And then they decided, all right, we're going to come to iOS because everything we do here is so Microsoft centered.
Yes.
When it got good on iOS, I was like, I can do everything I need to for work on an iPad. And so I've got this love of this device, and I can do whatever I need to.
I was blown away. I think it was literally like a few months after Satya Nadella took over. Yeah. They went all in with iOS. And now I actually prefer the Office apps for the iPad than on the Mac. The Office apps, they did a really great job. It's very, not clicky. I don't know what other word. It's just very... Yeah.
And they make use of the latest iOS features, so they adopt split screen. They were ready for the big Pro immediately. They were adopted split screen,
which Google's apps alternatively, right? Like we use Google Apps for our domain. We're always just waiting for them to update their apps for Google Drive and stuff.
And even to the OneDrive, they work with iOS document providers, so I can easily get to all my stuff that I store in OneDrive for work. And so they're good iOS citizens, which is amazing.
Cool. So that, I guess, opens up a bigger conversation for any newcomers that are thinking about making the switch. You mentioned Microsoft apps. What are some apps or advice that you have that are your go-to apps that you use that can make that transition easier?
Yeah. I will say that some of it you do have to have a little bit of an adventurous spirit.
Okay.
I feel like because I was in with the Mac, not that I was with classic Mac OS, but the beginning of even OS 10, there were times where I want to use a Mac, I love this, there are a few things I can't do because it's not compatible. The Mac
see.
wasn't the behemoth that it is
Yep.
now, and so there are a few things that can be difficult.
Right.
And so I think there's some of that. I'm an early adopter,
You're willing to make that trade off.
right? Because it is a platform that I love, and
Okay.
so
That's cool. That's a good point.
yeah. So there it can be some
Mhm.
difficulty. It's not just, I would not say to everybody like, do this, you know.
Right. Yeah.
But if you're interested in doing it,
Mhm.
there are some amazing apps out there.
Cool. So what are your go-to?
Yeah, my favorite, like, couldn't live without, is an app called Drafts
Okay.
by Agile Tortoise.
Okay. I've heard of it. Haven't used it. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
Mhm.
it's really cool. It always opens up to empty text input. So and then
The
it's
little
got
things, yeah.
all these automation features to where
Hmm.
I can send that to an email app. I can send it in a text
I
message.
see.
I can send it to OmniFocus, which is my task manager. And so a lot of
Okay.
times, either from, I've even got the complication for drafts on my watch. So if
Oh
I
wow.
like
Yeah.
have to get something down quickly
Uh-huh.
and I don't want to process it immediately because I have 20 kids around me,
Right.
I'll speak it into my watch in drafts, or I'll pull up my
Mhm.
phone, and the Today widget's really good. The 3D touch actions are great. Like it's a really well done
Cool.
app, and so because I'm moving so fast,
Right.
I can get everything I need to down and then just process it later.
So
Like,
drafts
this
is like your go-to where you do a lot of text input
yes,
to get your workflow started. or whatever.
exactly.
Cool. That's awesome.
Text almost always starts in drafts, not
Got it.
necessarily maybe with iMessages or things like that, but
Mhm.
like ideas for, I have a blog, or
Yeah.
anything like that. So I highly recommend it. I think it's $10 on the App Store, but
Got it.
I use it all day, every day.
Sure.
So I can't recommend it enough. And Greg is a fantastic developer, the guy who does it, and he's always up on the latest,
Sure.
releases, and it's actively developed and has a good business model.
Cool.
He's been
Good
around
to
for a
know.
while, so I always like to trust that apps are going to be around
Yeah,
before I become dependent on them.
That's right.
So let's see, what else did I write down?
So you've got drafts, Office, and you mentioned
Yeah.
OmniFocus.
Yeah,
Right?
I do use OmniFocus. I have a love-hate relationship with GTD.
Okay, yep.
Getting things done. I actually literally, as the day that we're recording, published a post on my blog about how I'm not sure it's possible to completely implement GTD as a teacher.
Wow.
It's just the
Okay.
way that our schedule is.
It's an
It's hard to
interesting
do that.
debate, yeah.
But that is where I get
Okay.
the bulk of my task management done. I highly recommend it. And there are other people on the internet who can talk about how to use it way better than I can.
Got it. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
let's see. I have to, as much email as I have to deal
Yeah.
with, I have to have more than just Apple Mail.
Okay.
Especially using Exchange servers and stuff that are
Yeah.
a little crazy. So 2 apps that I love, and I switch back and forth between them depending on my mood, are Spark by Readle,
Yeah. Totally.
and then an app called Airmail.
Yes.
And Airmail is...
Got some Airmail fans.
Yeah?
Few on the Foojee team. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I love Airmail when it's working. There are
Okay.
just some weird bugs. I've had emails, like important emails to parents, just not send.
Okay.
And so I don't trust it. So like I use it for certain things, but then Spark is always dependable for me.
Yeah.
And so I tend to use it. I wish I could use Airmail all the time.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
I used Spark for a long time. I'm
Mhm.
back to the native Apple
Yeah.
apps, and the guys joke around about it. But there's something I love about just using the native app every now and then.
Yeah.
So that's cool. So 2 apps for email. What else?
I use, in the classroom, one
Yeah.
of my favorite things that I've discovered is Notability. And
Ooh, yeah.
and it's great. Its Apple Pencil support is incredible, and you can have different paper types, so when I'm modeling writing, I've got a big projector behind me, and I've got an Apple TV hooked up to it. And so I can model writing for my kids,
Mhm.
and I can walk around the classroom holding this iPad, writing with my Apple Pencil.
Right.
And then I can see what they're doing, and like, oh man, little Johnny just had this great idea. Let me show
Mhm.
everybody up on the board really quickly instead of being tethered to a desk or even
That's
the big
awesome.
iPad Pro.
Right.
so-
And you were saying earlier, like that's actually this setup has replaced like an overhead projector.
Yeah.
Right. For example.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
wow, super cool.
So Notability is huge. And then I use ScanBot a lot as well. That's my
Oh, interesting.
scanner of
Yeah.
choice on the
Is
iPhone.
that from Tapbots?
No,
Like
it's
Tweetbot
not.
and all- it's not.
It's
Okay.
not. You would think it.
Yeah.
It is. I can't remember who develops it. They just did a big like 6.0
Okay.
update
Mhm.
in the last couple weeks, but it's a great scanner app. It does OCR
That's
right
good.
on the app,
Yeah.
and it can easily share to different cloud services. So I can put it in my OneDrive, or I can send it to Apple Notes if I'm putting something there.
Right.
You know,
I
so
was using Scanner Pro for the longest
Mhm.
time. They're also by Riedel.
Riedel, yeah,
Spark.
I've used that one.
Great app. And then Dropbox,
hmm
which we rely heavily on, added its own scan function, and it auto detects the edges like
Yeah.
any kind of scanner app. Now it does. I don't think it has like OCR and stuff, but once Dropbox like just added that built-in scan function, now it's like scan. It's instantly in Dropbox,
Totally.
all in the same app.
Yeah.
So I miss out on again some of the features, a few sacrifices, but what I'm getting in return. Just one app for everything is better, but I haven't checked that out. That's cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
and what caused me to I was actually on Scanner Pro as
Yeah.
well,
Okay.
and they did that. I think that big 6.0 update. You can
Mhm.
now like if you need something OCR'd,
Yep.
you can share it using a share extension to
Hmm.
ScanBot, OCR it, and send it out. So it's not just
Interesting.
having to scan a physical document anymore. So a lot of times I'll get a PDF from something from work
Yep.
that I want to search through, or I use there's a great app called
Mhm.
Liquid Text. It
Okay.
allows you to mark up, and it's like note taking in PDFs.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Super cool, and great Apple Pencil support. And so, but it has to be OCR'd. And so, if I get
Yeah.
a document from work that I want to mark up or look at, I can OCR it in ScanBot and then send it to Liquid Text. So,
Awesome.
it's great. Yeah.
Cool. So what else? You have a
Yeah.
I know you're using these day in and day out.
Yeah. I shifted from Evernote to Apple Notes with iOS 9.
Got a gentleman here. Yes. You too? I don't know you did that also.
Yeah.
Yep. When did you make the switch?
I had slowly started getting away from Evernote probably a good 18 months ago.
Yeah.
And then when Apple released iOS 9, and I was on the public beta, so summer of 2015,
Yep.
I started trying it out, and it's stuck.
Once they rebuilt like the sync engine and everything
Yeah.
like that, it's
And because I have the Apple Pencil, like I like to handwrite notes,
Yes.
but then it's stored in there. So alongside pictures that I take from professional development, things like that. I
Right.
take a picture of a slide, then I can write a couple things underneath it and store a link to a website, like all right together. And it's that rich preview of all that. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm so glad that Apple just made the investment to make that because there weren't any options. It was just the bloated Evernote or the built-in notes. So
Right.
that's really cool.
Yeah.
So as we're wrapping up, we've been mostly talking about kind of your setup, which
Yeah.
is awesome. But you also have a few iPads that you use for your students,
Mhm.
throughout the day. What, just to name off some apps for teachers who are watching, what are some apps that you're using for the actual students?
Yeah. So I do use some of the Microsoft stuff if I want students
Okay.
to be doing PowerPoint. Students have Office 365
Okay.
accounts too.
Awesome.
So they can do that.
Mhm.
Also, I sometimes will have kids just put something into drafts too. Like that's good if I
Oh,
want them,
interesting.
and
Yeah,
I can save it to a Google Drive or
Mhm.
wherever I want it stored,
Sure.
and then they can do that. Let's see. There's an app called Homer that I'm trying out right now with my students, and it's very much for lower readers, kind of the pre-K through second grade,
Okay.
teaching them sounds and through games, and they're actually piloting it here with, and I just said my school name, so
There's that.
yeah,
Maybe
so
we can cut that out. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, it's all right.
Cool.
It's all right. I'm not worried
Yeah,
about it. I
cool.
say it on the internet sometimes. So so they're piloting it here with us, and it's been working out really well. It goes through
Awesome.
and can kind of help them develop the phonics and things like that
I
that they
see.
need. So I also even just YouTube. I
Yeah.
know like the Screen Actors Guild had some actors come and just read some famous stories, and like it's really good for kids the age that I'm teaching to just hear
Oh,
good
yeah.
reading,
Sure.
and they're engaged by it. And so I'll make that a center. I'll put a little QR code of here's the story I want you to read today, and the link to the YouTube thing printed out, and I've taught them how to go into the QR code reader app, and they scan it and they go and they open up and watch a YouTube video, and they sit engaged, and it's good to help them read that way. So
That's awesome.
Extra Math is good, just math quizzing. That's Extra Math with an X.
Got it.
Nope, not EX. XTRA.
XTRA,
Yeah. Puppet Pals is fun.
Okay.
They can make little videos, so they can write a story and then like have little puppets that like.
And this is
act
all
it
at
out.
like second grade, huh?
Yeah,
Man, so cool.
and kids know how to use an iPad way better than they know how to use a computer.
Right.
Getting them to use, we have some. Well, gosh, I don't even know if they're IBMs or something that they have to use for certain things, and it's. Let's just not talk about it.
It's
I'm gonna get
comical,
stressed.
right?
Yeah.
It makes me think of this anecdote from a fellow blogger, Fraser Spears,
Yeah.
which we're both very well aware of. He told a story once of when his school first got iPads, and they bought Bluetooth keyboards for all of the iPads for the kids, because the teachers and the parents insisted that if we're going to go with the tablet, we need to get keyboards, and several months in, he realized they hadn't even touched the Bluetooth keyboards at all. And then when that generation of that class basically went to the next grade and started doing programming classes, they were using a traditional keyboard, like a traditional computer. And they said, I'm paraphrasing, but Mr. Spears, this is really difficult to like have to push down the keys, in this programming class, and I think for all of us, like I'm officially old now because I prefer a keyboard where you have to push the keys down.
Yeah.
So hearing that was humbling. Like, okay, that's called the next generation.
Right.
So continuously humbling what we're doing here in IT.
Yeah.
Well, man, thank you so much for your time, just sharing some of your setup here and what you're doing for the classroom.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Absolutely. I'm sure your students also appreciate kind of how you're having a more interactive classroom.
I hope so.
Yeah, I know what you're doing is really cool. So if people want to learn more, kind of follow you mentioned you have a blog. How can people find you on the internet?
Yeah, 2 places. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Craig McClellan. It's just my name, so that's good. And then my blog is theclassnerd.com.
Cool.
So
awesome.
Talk about mostly how I'm using an iPad in my classroom. So more what we're talking about. Occasionally a few other things. But
cool. Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much. And if you guys have questions for Craig or us just about using an iPad or a Mac in the classroom, comment on this video, hashtag us at AskFoojee on any social medias that you want, because we will absolutely continue to keep making this content if you guys have questions about it. So in the meantime, keep having fun, keep asking us questions, and we'll see you in a few weeks.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for watching. If you find value in these episodes, be sure to subscribe so you'll get notified every time a new one is released. I can't tell you how excited I am. I'm going to go ahead and do that again.
Okay.
All right. That was too bad. Hey, everyone.
Hey, everyone. Laugh at you every time. I hope
yes. Please do. Please do. Hey, everyone. This is Lucas Acosta, and thanks for watching. Nope.